It happened behind closed doors in Washington, a moment that redefined the alliance. Donald Trump made a specific request to President Erdogan: cut the dependence on Russian energy, stop the flow. Erdogan's answer was negative. He thought he held all the cards. He thought the West had no other choice but to go through Anatolia. He was wrong. That refusal was the spark. Washington didn't argue. They just looked at the map and drew a new line. Imagine a knife cutting through the geography of the Balkans, a vertical line that starts in the warm waters of the Aegean and shoots straight up to the borders of Ukraine. They call it the vertical corridor. This isn't just a pipeline network, it is a geopolitical wall. It blocks Russia from the West, and crucially, it bypasses Turkey completely. To the United States, it is energy independence. To Greece, it is a golden ticket. But for Turkey, it is a geopolitical nightmare. Here is how one vertical line is about to erase decades of Turkish leverage. To understand why this map is a nightmare for Turkey, you don't need to look at a politician. You need to look at the plumbing. Floating just off the coast of Alexandroupolis sits the FSRU. To a tourist, it looks like a standard gas tanker, but to a military strategist, it is a floating fortress. And to understand the weapon, we must look at the target. For 50 years, the energy architecture of the Balkans was a one-way street running south. The massive Trans-Balkan pipeline was the Soviet Union's main artery, pumping gas from Ukraine through Romania and Bulgaria, ending in Greece and Turkey. It was a river of influence that flowed downhill. We saw the brutality of this design on April 27, 2022. Gazprom turned the valve to closed for Bulgaria because Sofia refused to pay in rubles. The message was clear: obey or freeze. In that chaos, President Erdogan saw a golden opportunity. Backed by a proposal from Vladimir Putin in late 2022, he pitched the Thrace gas hub. He wanted to be the gatekeeper, mixing Russian gas in Turkey and selling it to Europe. He wanted the Balkans to look to Istanbul for survival. It was a brilliant plan, but he missed one detail. The Greeks and Americans were already hacking the system. Instead of just building new pipes, they took that massive Soviet-era pipeline and reversed the pumps. This is the vertical corridor. It flips the logic of Europe on its head, literally. The star of this show is Alexandroupolis, receiving American LNG and pumping it north. But the tip of the spear has a heavy shaft behind it. Just west of Athens lies the Refusal LNG terminal. This is the OG of Greek energy independence. While cameras focus on the new projects in the north, Refusal has been the backbone, quietly keeping the system pressurized. It is the only terminal in Greece that has been operating for decades, and its recent upgrades allow it to handle massive loads of American LNG alongside Alexandroupolis. Here is how the machine works. Tankers dock at both ports. They offload into the Greek grid. Using high-powered compressors, Greece pushes this gas upwards into the IGB pipeline, the first crack in the Russian monopoly. From Bulgaria, the gas shoots north into Romania, Moldova, and finally, Ukraine. By physically reversing the flow, Greece built a structural barrier. Russian gas can no longer dominate these pipes because they are full of American gas moving in the opposite direction. Erdogan's dream of becoming the energy hub evaporated. The Balkans found a new escape route, and it leads directly to the Aegean Sea. To understand the scale of this defeat for Turkey, you don't need to look at a map. You need to look at a spreadsheet in Washington. Because while Ankara was busy negotiating to become Russia's gas hub, another player was quietly eating the entire market: the United States. By the time the Alexandroupolis terminal came online in late 2024, the US had already become the undisputed king of LNG. In just 2 years, American tankers captured nearly 50% of the entire European LNG market. The business model is brutally simple. Step 1. Europe panics after the Ukraine war. Step 2. The US fills the void. But the Americans had a problem. They had too much product and not enough doors to get it into the Balkans. You see, the Bosphorus Strait is congested, LNG transport is shadow banned due to safety rules, and Turkey controls the toll booth. So, Washington and Athens built a second door. The Alexandroupolis FSRU isn't just a Greek asset, it is a dedicated highway for US molecules. With a capacity of 5.5 billion cubic meters per year, it allows US LNG to bypass the Turkish Straits entirely and shoot straight up the vertical corridor to Ukraine. But recently, the strategy has shifted from transit to ownership. In our previous video, we explained how Ambassador Kimberly Guilfoyle arrived in Athens as an operator for American interests. Now the results are visible. ExxonMobil has officially entered the game, moving into Block 2 west of Corfu. For years, major U.S. oil companies were hesitant to drill in Greek waters. Now, with the political cover of the Trump administration, they are all in. And they aren't stopping there. Washington is actively looking to expand its management to other critical ports, like Volos and Kavala. They are building a chain of custody, controlling the ports, drilling for the gas, and managing the pipelines. For Turkey, this is the ultimate nightmare scenario. Erdogan's leverage depended on being the only viable route for energy to reach Southeast Europe. He wanted to be the bottleneck, but the vertical corridor broke the bottle. Now, the U.S. can supply its allies in Bulgaria, Romania, and Moldova directly through Greece. They don't need Ankara's permission, and they don't need Russia's pipes. The Americans have secured their market. But for Greece, the reward is much bigger than just transit fees. In the next chapter, we will see how this pipeline has given Athens a new diplomatic superpower, one that is forcing its neighbors to switch sides. By the way, only 14.7% of you are subscribed. If this kind of deep dive geopolitics matters to you, like and subscribe. Let's keep revealing what others miss. In geopolitics, there's a simple rule. If you control the energy, you control the conversation. For decades, Athens was a passenger in Europe's energy security. Today, it is the driver. But to truly understand this power shift, we must distinguish between a hub and a source. A hub manages traffic. A source owns the road. While the vertical corridor is currently filled with American LNG, the long-term strategy is even more ambitious. With exploration accelerating in the Ionian Sea and off the coast of Crete, this infrastructure is being prepared to carry Greek natural gas into the heart of Europe. This shift from transit state to energy producer changes the political calculus entirely. It turns Greece from a middleman into a guarantor of European survival. This transformation was sealed on January 19, 2024, when a historic memorandum of understanding was signed in Athens. It wasn't just a photo op. It was a binding commitment between Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, Moldova, and Ukraine. Look at that list. These are the frontline states of the new security architecture. By signing this pact, they effectively declared that their energy survival now depends on the Aegean Sea. This diplomatic wave is even reshaping relations with difficult neighbors. Take North Macedonia and Albania. Historically, these relationships have been complex, filled with ethnic and political tension. But with the new interconnector to Skopje and pipelines crossing into Albania, energy pragmatism is overriding old rivalries. Athens is effectively becoming the energy lifeline for its northern borders. You simply cannot maintain hostility with the country that holds the keys to your power grid. But the real genius of this plan isn't about natural gas, it's about what comes after the gas. While others are fighting for dominance over today's fossil fuels, Greece is already laying the trap for the next 50 years. The new infrastructure being built, including the IGB pipeline and the upgraded Greek grid, is being designed with a hydrogen-ready future in mind. The long-term plan is to repurpose these very same pipes to transport green hydrogen produced in the Mediterranean up to the heavy industries of Central Europe. This is the checkmate. If Greece were only selling LNG, this influence might last 10 or 20 years. But by building the highway for the future fuel of Europe, Athens is locking these countries into its orbit for the rest of the century. This is no longer just about competing with Turkey. It is about Greece establishing itself as an independent, indispensable pole of power in the Mediterranean. Athens has successfully positioned itself as the gateway to the West. And as we will see in the final chapter, this new reality creates a very difficult map for anyone trying to bypass the Aegean. For 20 years, Ankara has operated with a single, powerful geopolitical doctrine to become the indispensable energy bridge between East and West. The plan was simple and, frankly, brilliant. If you wanted to move gas from Azerbaijan, Russia, or the Middle East to Europe, you had to cross Turkish territory. This geography gave Turkey massive leverage. It meant that every time Brussels wanted to turn on the lights, they had to stay on good terms with Ankara. But the vertical corridor doesn't just compete with this plan, it breaks it. By shifting the axis from east-west to south-north, Greece has created a backdoor that completely bypasses the Turkish landmass. But here's the twist that turns a strategic problem into a full-blown crisis for Ankara. The vertical corridor isn't just a highway for American LNG, it is the socket waiting for the Eastern Mediterranean plug. Plans are already being drawn to bond this corridor with the potential EastMed infrastructure. This means that in the near future, gas from Israel, Egypt, and Cyprus could flow into this system and shoot straight up to Eastern Europe. This is the ultimate nightmare scenario for Turkish strategists. It's not about losing transit fees, it's about losing the veto. If Europe can supply Ukraine, Moldova, and the Balkans through the Greek Aegean, using American, Israeli, or Egyptian gas, Turkey's ability to pressure the European Union diminishes significantly. The monopoly on the tap is gone. This also complicates the blue homeland doctrine. Turkey has spent years projecting naval power to control energy routes in the Eastern Mediterranean, but the vertical corridor renders much of that posturing irrelevant. The energy is no longer waiting for a pipeline to be built from Israel or Cyprus that Turkey could block. It is arriving by ship directly into Greek waters, protected by American and European interests. The FSRU in Alexandroupolis acts as a strategic shield because the United States and the EU have invested heavily in this corridor. The security of the Aegean Sea is no longer just a Greek concern, it is a NATO priority. Turkey remains a major regional power, of course, but in the energy game, they are no longer the only player that matters. The map has changed. The vertical line is cut through the horizontal dream, and as we look at the final board, we see a new reality. Greece has not just bought gas, it has bought insurance. It has secured its place at the table in a way that no amount of diplomatic pressure from the East can undo. Uncovering these complex energy maps and connecting the geopolitical dots takes significant resources. If you value this kind of independent analysis that goes deeper than the headlines, consider becoming a member of the Money Trail channel today. Your support is what allows us to continue producing these documentaries. Click the join button below to help us keep following the money. The vertical corridor isn't just a construction project. It is a geopolitical revolution that rewrites the rules of the game. For generations, the shape of Balkan energy politics was dictated from Moscow and Ankara. It was a map of dependency, where energy flowed east to west and political influence flowed with it. But today, for the first time in history, the flow of power has reversed. It runs south to north. By turning the Aegean Sea into the new entry point for the West, Greece has effectively built a shield that protects half of Europe from energy blackmail. The pipelines are laid, the contracts are signed, the map has changed forever. This aligns perfectly with the new American doctrine we discussed. We started this video asking why Trump's map is a nightmare for Turkey. The answer is now clear. Washington has stopped looking for bridges that can be blocked or leveraged for political gain. They are building corridors that they can control. The United States has found a partner in the Mediterranean that offers stability rather than constant negotiation. Trump's new map doesn't just isolate rivals, it crowns new kings. And in this high-stakes game of energy thrones, Athens has just secured the most valuable seat at the table. This infrastructure ensures that no matter who sits in the Kremlin or the presidential palace in Ankara, the lights in Sofia, Bucharest, and Kyiv will stay on. The vertical wall is now a permanent fixture of European security. This is the new reality of the Mediterranean. The old energy bridge is closed. The new vertical highway is open for business. If you want to understand the military side of this rivalry, or how the Aegean dispute connects to this energy war, I think that you will like the videos appearing on your screen right now, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe to stay ahead of the story.